Hey, how's it going? Today, we're going to talk about the prologue to Romeo and Juliet. As we did this in class, everyone had a handout, and I had people annotating, writing down all over that page. So as you watch this video, it would be a good idea to either open to page 230 in your textbook or somehow print yourself a copy of the prologue so that you've got it. I'm going to do the same thing I did with our sonnet. I'm going to use my iPad to use Notability and give you some notes. So follow along, listen in, and make sure to jot down what it is that you're getting out of this, because it's important. It's the very beginning of the play, and you want to make sure you know what's going on. So here we go. As we get started, first of all, it says chorus at the top. And when it says chorus at the top, it's not like people are singing. This is not a musical interlude, okay? This is where we would have one actor come out on stage, kind of like a narrator almost, and give this background information. What you'll find as we start reading the play is that Shakespeare really drops us in right in the middle of the action. And so with this chorus, it gives us enough context, gives us enough background information that we have an idea of what's going on, even though the first scene starts us out right in the middle of things. So let's take a look. Let's read along. All right. Actually, before I zoom in, let's read the whole prologue and then we'll come back up. So here we go. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. The which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. Okay. And then the chorus exits, and then Act 1, Scene 1 would begin. The play in earnest would begin. So let's go to the top and let's decode this so that we know what's going on. Okay. So first of all, two households, both alike in dignity. Of course, when we're talking about households, we're not talking about houses, we're not talking about buildings. This is the two families. Romeo and Juliet's families, the Montagues and the Capulets. And it says two families both alike in dignity. What it means there, the word dignity could mean rank. That's what it says in your textbook for dignity, or could mean social status. So we have these two families that are alike in dignity. They have similar rank and social status. They're both rich. They're really famous in town. They're the most well-known families in Verona. Speaking of, we get to lane two. Two households both alike in dignity in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. Verona is a town in Italy. Shakespeare sets his plays all over the place. The histories, of course, are mostly London, but his comedy, or England, but his comedies and tragedies are all over the place. Romeo and Juliet is in Italy. The Hamlet is the Dutch play. Macbeth is the Scottish play, etc. So in fair Verona, Italy, where we lay our scene. It says where we lay our scene. That means that this is our setting. Oops. Okay. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. So we've got these two households, these two families, and among the two families, there is an ancient grudge. Okay. Some of you probably know what it's like to hold a grudge, but this one is ancient. And throughout the entire play, they're never going to tell us what it is. They're never going to tell us what the grudge is, why the families are mad at each other. But for some reason, the Montagues and Capulets the two households, both alike in dignity. For some reason, they hate each other, okay? And they have forever. It's an ancient grudge, okay? But something has broken, something has happened. Ancient grudge breaks to new mutiny. Ancient grudge break to new mutiny. Now that word mutiny, in the textbook, it says to rebel against authority. And yeah, when we use the word mutiny, that's usually what it means. And that meaning is not necessarily wrong here, but it can also be used kind of as a general term for violence. So I'm going to write that here. So because of this ancient grudge, for some reason, we've got this arrow, for some reason, it has erupted in a new set of violence in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, okay? Where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. Now, when you think of the word civil, the first thing you might think of is civil war, right? Civil war is not a war against other countries. It's a war of different groups of people within the same country, okay? Civil can also mean like polite. Like, for example, if you disagree with each other, but you're having a polite conversation, you might call that civil discourse. Civil can also mean connected to a city, right? Like if you're a mayor or a firefighter or something like that, you might call yourself a civil servant because you are serving the city or serving the state. So because of this ancient grudge breaking to new mutiny, I'm going to use a different meaning for each, although they could both kind of mean either polite. And then this one, I'm going to say within the city. So even though there's an ancient grudge, the households are alike in dignity, and people in town generally get along with each other. They're generally polite, but because of this new mutiny, because of this new outbreak of violence, that politeness has turned to violence, okay? And the blood within the city that would have been polite, well, now it makes hands within the city unclean. People are turning against each other, okay? Next sentence. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Now the two foes, that is the two families. Two foes, two enemies, two rivals, okay? From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. So the word fatal, we know what that means. It's like a fatal wound, right? Is a wound that causes death, but also it can also be used to mean like very, very crucial. Like, for example, a character's fatal flaw. Now that doesn't mean that the flaw kills them, but it's the most crucial, most important, most significant flaw that that character has. And so when we say, for what is it that's from the fatal loins of these two foes? Well, it's these two star-crossed lovers. It's these unfortunate children, these significant offspring. And that's how I'm going to write it here. Significant offspring. So these significant offspring of these two families are a pair of star-crossed lovers who take their life. We got to talk about this phrase star-crossed, okay? Throughout this play, astrology plays a role. And astrology really played a role to people in Shakespeare's day in their lives. The sun, the moon, and the stars are really important in this play. Let's make a better star. The sun, the moon, and the stars are really important in this play, and this is the first example of that. If you were to say that two people were star-crossed, that would mean that they are cursed. Astrology means, or the idea of astrology is that the relative positions of the planets and the stars are really important and have a real meaning and impact on your life. And so you'll even hear some people today say, well, if the stars align, right? And generally today, people say that to mean like, if I get lucky, right? If I'm really lucky, if the stars align, then I'll get this job or whatever, right? the opposite of the stars aligning is if the stars are crossed. And so when we say these star-crossed lovers, heart, these cursed lovers, it means that their stars were not aligned when they were born, they were crossed. And so that is bad astrologically. That's a curse, okay? Now, we're in line 6 of the play, and Shakespeare tells us a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, okay? So I'm going to draw 2 gravestones. Rip. Rip. A pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. These 2 star-crossed lovers, not only does it tell us that they die at the end of the play, but they take their life. They take their own lives. They commit suicide at the end of the play, okay? So why does Shakespeare do that? Why tell us right here in line 6 of the entire play that, oh, by the way, these 2 main characters, these star-crossed lovers that are in the title, they're going to take their own lives at the end of the play? I kind of think of the prologue as the movie trailer, right? But at the same time, movie trailers don't have all the spoilers for the entire movie, right? But they do here. And I think there's a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones to me is that it fundamentally changes the way that we as the audience interact with the play. Instead of watching the play and thinking, I wonder what's going to happen at the end, you know what's going to happen at the end. A pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. So instead of thinking, I wonder what's going to happen at the end, then we watch the play and we think, I wonder how we're going to get to that point. I wonder how we're going to get to the place in the play where this pair of star-crossed lovers gets so desperate that they are willing to take their life. Okay, let's continue. Whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. Okay, first of all, doth is just does. Okay. And when we say whose misadventured piteous overthrows, let's say whose unfortunate circumstances. That's the hardest line in the prologue for me. Whose unfortunate circumstances does with their death bury their parents' strife. Oh, we got death again. Okay. But you'll notice when we talk about the parents' strife, what is the parents' strife? Well, it's the ancient grudge, right? That's the parents' strife. That's what we're talking about here. So it buries their parents' strife. It buries their parents' ancient grudge. Okay. So the significant offspring of these 2 families are a pair of star-crossed lovers who take their life, whose unfortunate circumstances do with their death bury the ancient grudge between the 2 families. Okay. Oops. Let's try that better. Bury their parents' ancient grudge. That's the impact of the deaths, is it causes the families to make up, to bury the ancient grudge. The fearful passage of their death-marked love, okay? The fearful passage, the awful story of their death-marked love, okay? So their love, heart, is marked by death. And the continuance of their parents' rage or feud or rivalry or once again ancient grudge, right? Which, but their children's end, death, not could remove, not means nothing. So the awful story of their death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' feud, which but their children's end nothing could remove. So what can remove their parents' rage? What can end the ancient grudge, the feud, nothing but their children's end. Okay. So throughout this whole play, nothing can remove their parents' rage. Nothing can end the feud except their children's end. How does that happen? Once again, we'll see as we read the play. We'll see how that happens when we get to the end. The continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. Nowadays, if you go see this show, it's probably going to be about 3 hours long. I don't know if they talked really fast in Shakespeare's day. I don't know why it says 2 hours traffic, but it's an approximation. Okay. The which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. If you pay attention, if you paid attention, let's say, if you paid attention, but you missed it, our toil, that's work, shall strive to mend, shall strive to fix that problem. So, if you paid attention to the prologue, but you're still confused, but you're still confused, but you don't understand what's happening, but you miss the point of the story, well then, our work on this stage will strive to fix that problem. We will help you understand by acting this play out and telling you the story the best way we can, okay? Exit. Let's go back to the top and let's read through it one more time now that we have all the annotations, okay? Two households, both alike in dignity. Two families, both alike in rank or social status, in fair Verona, Italy, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, a new outbreak of violence, where polite blood makes hands within the city unclean. The significant offspring of these two foes, these two rival families, are a pair of star-crossed lovers or cursed lovers who take their life, whose unfortunate circumstances does with their death bury their parents' ancient grudge, their parents' strife. The tragedy, the awful story of their death-marked love, and the continuance of their parents' feud, which could not be removed except through the death of their children, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage, is now what you're going to see up on this stage here today. If you paid attention to this prologue, but you missed it, but you're confused or you don't understand, well, our work as actors shall strive to fix that problem as you watch the play, okay? Thank you. That is the prologue to Romeo and Juliet. Up next, Act 1, Scene 1. You can look forward to that as we read it together in class. Make it a great day. Talk to you soon.